Welcome back to the Three Hamster Boy podcast, podcast. This is episode number 6.
Hard to believe.
I was just about to say, it is kind of weird to think about that this is the 6th episode of this series.
Like half a dozen.
I know, yeah. Soon,
almost at 100.
I was gonna say Blinken will be at a baker's dozen, but yeah, we could jump that far. So I think before we get too deep into this episode, obviously looking at the title, you can see that today we're going to be talking about we're going to be talking about media and like iconic deaths from characters, both good, bad, whatever. I think a lot of what we talked about on this podcast has kind of related to media, whether that's video games, movies, TV shows, anime, things like that. And I think this is another extension of that. I will say, when I pitched this idea, we were in the car and our dad went like, JFK?
I was like, are we talking media or we're talking about real Yeah.
But with that being said, it is hard to have an impactful death of a character in media without there being some sort of connection or some sort of plot-driven force. So this is your warning right now. There will be heavy spoilers included in this episode. We're going to do our best to kind of give you a forewarning. We'll say like, this is from this show, this movie, whatever. And if you haven't seen it and you are planning on watching it very shortly, that's your cue to kind of skip it, move it.
To mute, yeah.
Yeah. Or just, we'll see in episode 7. Really what you want to do.
Yeah. I mean, I think from the reason that these are impactful is usually because it's either unexpected or it comes in a way that's unexpected.
Yeah.
And so, or the character that dies does it in a way that's not expected. So that's the only way it's really impactful.
I don't know if unexpected is like the way. I think it's just it does happen, and like and you are connected to the character.
Right.
I think unexpected deaths certainly have a place, but like I think the character itself, you like when you really feel for them or the other people around them in that moment, I feel like that's when you like get in the thick of it.
Yeah, you get into that mind space. But before we get too deep into this talk, let's start drinking here. So this week I actually got to join the other two for the first time. It feels
we were slumming, so
yeah.
we brought them along.
Oh my gosh. We went out to starrhillbrewery, which is a local brewery. They have a couple locations near us, so we were able to go to the distillery.
So this was old home week for me.
Yeah.
So the main distillery is in Crozet, Virginia, which nobody knows where that is. But I moved to Crozet.
Now.
I moved to Crozet in 9th grade after moving from Chicago. And it was 1,000 people in this unincorporated town area. So going back there and seeing this and seeing how it's changed is just very strange. The building that the distillery is in, both of my parents have worked in that building.
Not in beer creation.
Not in beer creation.
Think.
Before it was a distillery. So It was very strange to be in that town.
Yeah. And so we thought it was fitting.
Are you trying to take my job?
Oh yeah, actually, sorry, Nick.
What is this?
Go ahead.
I'm the alcohol guy.
Yeah, I was like, I was here this time. I could actually talk
just because
we brought you along
doesn't mean because you can usurp me in this.
All right, Nick, give us a rundown of what we're drinking.
All right, so this week we tried a variety of things at Starrhill, just because we were like, oh, let's try a few things and
we were impressed. We thought it was really good.
Yeah, we weren't.
We tried a lot.
We weren't disappointed with anything we had. But the stuff that really called out to us, they all conveniently happen to be lagers.
Yeah.
So this whole assortment of beers that we're having, they're all lagers, but they're two of them are at least like very unique sounding. We haven't had them. But very excited. And we're starting it off with, it is called Murphy's Gold lager, which is from what we understand, it's a fairly typical lager on their list, but it smells really good as soon as we poured it. And we had a few of their other lagers, and they're very clean. So I'm expecting something very similar.
All right.
Yeah. All right. Cheers.
Cheers.
Prost.
Yep.
Skull.
Prost.
Come by.
Yeah, that's exactly what I expected.
Yeah.
It's good. There's nothing crazy. Like, there's no like extra hints or notes that I'm like, oh wow, this is awesome. But this is just like a good, clean, fun lager.
This is an afternoon drinking with burgers and fries.
Yeah.
And burgers and
It's
dogs.
like it's like a solid choice. Like
Yeah.
Yep.
if you're drinking this, you're like, oh, easy. I made the right choice.
Yeah,
You're not
exactly.
going to be disappointed with it. It's very clean. It doesn't like stick to your tongue anywhere. It just like drink it and it's good.
Yeah. All right. So on to character deaths. We'll do this in a way. So, Dad, I'm gonna have you go first here. Say what it's from.
No,
We'll have a short pause and then talk about character. Talk about the relevance.
All right. So mine is from Infinity War. You know, the second of the final two movies of the 1,000 movies that were the Marvel characters
Of the MCU.
MCU.
Yeah.
And although
You probably have seen this then.
you probably seen it now.
Very popular
The,
choice.
the other two characters I picked was because it had impact on characters around you. This one I picked because I made it through the 16 movies beforehand to get to this movie.
So you feel like you deserve.
I
Yeah.
deserve this. And so, yeah.
Did you want this character to die?
No, but
you
I
didn't think about that.
but no, I wanted something. I didn't want it just beating the bad guy. I wanted there to be more to it. And so the character I'm picking is, of course, Tony Stark, who at the end of it kills Thanos. He evolved as a character, and this was the final act for him because he had, when the snap occurred and they were once again spoilers,
Yeah.
the 5 years that they were, half the species were gone, he evolved into a different character than he was in the beginning.
Mhm.
And then at the end of it, he did this final act. And so, once again, this is more of a choice because of all the movies I sat through to get to that point. Which you know, it was a great scene, great point, and you know, it was also kind of the climax of a great fight scene. So that's why I picked that one.
I agree. I think it. Unfortunately, the MCU is stuck in a formulaic sort of product.
Yes.
And seeing like a superhero actually give up something, like especially their life, it's unfortunately a rarity from my point of view. I think sacrifices are so important.
Right.
And I think Tony Stark, I mean, it's a classic scene. Like you can picture it. Like he says, "I am Iron Man," right? Like,
Yeah.
and then there's so much weight to it, right? He's the tip, like basically the first Avenger, right? He was the one who kicked off in the MCU.
Right.
And I think it did have a lot of impact, and you know, it was incredibly made. It was a fun movie.
And I think at the end of it, when they're having his like funeral ceremony, they brought all these characters back from all of the Iron Man and all the past Avengers. Because there's like in one scene, I see this guy and I'm like, who is that? It was the guy from Iron Man 2, the little kid that was now 10 years older.
Right.
So it was all these characters from his movies. And it was, I think that it was a nice way to bring it all together and tie it all together.
You know, this might be slightly off the rails, but admittedly, when we're talking about like the MCU and like Infinity War, Tony Stark is not the character I think about. I think about Peter Parker. I don't feel so good, Mr. Stark.
Yeah.
Just because of how memed that got and how
Yeah.
in like the media and like on like social media
Yeah.
specifically,
It's
it was
true.
all over the place. All right. That's a fun one to kick us off. Nick, what about you? Where are we headed?
We are heading to a similar time commitment sort of experience. It is from One Piece.
Oh yeah.
If you have not gotten past episode 320,
here's your mark.
here's your warning. If you have, oof, you know. So this you watched the television series with us.
Yeah.
This character is named the Going Merry,
Oh,
the boat.
right.
Wait, this is a boat?
My character is the Straw Hat's boat.
Is this a? I have only seen a couple episodes of One Piece. Is this like a sentient creature?
Yes.
Oh,
So, on one of their islands, they hear this story of if a ship is taken care of and tended to, a spirit will begin to form around it, and the spirit will start taking care of the ship a little bit, and also connecting with the people that they're on, like who they travel with. They don't really see the spirit too often. There's only like one crew member that actually like sees it and hears it.
okay.
But it's a core sort of member of the crew,
Yeah.
right? Because they're always with it. Wherever they're going. Like if there's any downtime, they're on the Mary. They're traveling with the Mary.
Right.
And they're repairing the Mary, and the Mary's getting hurt, and they're putting chicken wings on the Mary and flying it up a waterfall.
Of course.
They're doing like outrageous things, and all this time, you're seeing the ship, and then there comes an arc, Water 7, where they're like, they're a bunch of shipwrights, and they're like, we can't repair it. The ship is totaled. The hull is going to break at any moment.
Yeah.
You need to get a new ship.
Oh.
Right. And a lot of the crew is like, okay,
Yeah.
I guess we have to. And then Usopp, who's the one who knows the spirit, who's seen and heard it,
Yeah.
fights basically back against the entire crew. Being like, this is a member of the crew, and like, I don't want to abandon this ship who's carried us all like this whole way.
Yeah.
And it builds and builds, and like there's a lot of stuff, and then there's a moment in the arc right after it where they go from this one island, and they go to a Navy base, and there's like an extremely dire situation. They rode something called a sea train over to it, which is basically a railroad built on the ocean.
Okay. Wait, that's actually a cool concept.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And they're basically entirely surrounded by like Navy warships, and like Luffy just got finished beating up a guy, and he's like, everyone on the crew was basically pushed their limbs. They could barely move.
Yeah.
And like the base around them is cracking and like falling apart. And then they hear a voice on the wind. Let's go. Let's leave. I'm here to pick you up.
Oh God.
Right. And
losers.
and basically they all like fall out like over this like ocean, and the Mary is there to pick them up. 'Cause it like traveled over to this base by itself. And it gets like halfway, and then like, oh, they see their friends who they made at like Water 7 to pick them up on like another ship.
Yeah.
And as soon as they're like on the horizon, Mary splits in half.
Oh.
Right. And you're like, dang, that's really tough.
Yeah.
And then there's like this incredible scene where Luffy takes a torch and he says, I don't want you to be alone at the bottom of the ocean.
Dang. So Luffy lights the ship on fire.
So it's Luffy lighting the ship and his entire crew behind him.
Oh my gosh.
Oh. I cried so much.
That is crazy.
Who knew?
There's a lot of jokes on the internet. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, One Piece is a joke until you start crying over a ship.
Right.
But like, it's so real. And there's unfortunately and fortunately plenty of like really impactful deaths in One Piece.
Yeah.
But that one is like the first one that like really makes you're losing. It's the first Straw Hat you lose.
Yeah.
And I think that's like so impactful because like they've been there since like
320 episodes.
Yeah.
basically, yeah, like episode 6 or something.
Oh gosh.
That was
Wow.
long-winded.
Yeah, I was like that one's pretty good. Don't worry, mine is pretty quick, honestly, before we get to our next drink.
I apologize.
Yeah, it's okay.
No, we were both long.
Yeah, I was enthralled. If you've gotten this far in the podcast and you haven't sat down and watched the original Die Hard, what are you doing?
Yeah.
I feel like we mention it every single
single time.
episode, and it won't change now. So this is a spoiler from Die Hard, the original. You probably know what it is. Obviously, Hans Gruber, the main bad guy, played by Alan Rickman. A incredible performance all around, but you know, his death scene of being shot and just falling off the edge of the hotel down below with like that beautiful camera shot of the angle of him falling, it kind of encapsulates everything. And we've been talking about it over dinner, but there were rumors on the wind that scene was not was obviously scripted, but when they were shooting the last take of it, they were like 3, 2 and pulled him instead of like giving him the actual countdown. So that's a true look of fear and terror on his face as he is falling backwards.
Now he was falling onto the mattress to catch him.
Yeah, but like
still.
either way.
Well, they were joking about it, that they made that the last scene that they were filming for the whole movie.
Right.
Because he was so mad when he hit the bottom.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be upset too.
So when you look at that, it's both Hans and Alan
Yeah.
in a face of betrayal
Yeah.
and fear.
And disbelief that I'm actually going to not make it.
Right. And I think, that's like perfectly encapsulates Hans's character, because he's like, oh man, I got this stupid American, which again is like a part of the movie too, in the good old red hot-blooded patriotism fighting against the Germans.
Yippee-ki-yay.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that was kind of like that. Obviously, Die Hard was a big part of, I wouldn't necessarily say our childhood, but like our young adult life, as like that action movie that has really kind of, I think, formed Nick and I's kind of love of action movies.
Yeah.
And so Hans Gruber's death scene kind of really was like that perfect cap on the end of the movie.
And he played it so well.
Yeah.
He was serious, but there was always parts when it wasn't so serious.
Yeah, he's like one of those villains that you like love to love. You don't even like hate him that much.
Yeah, you're like, man, you're kind of a bad guy, but you're kind of doing it good.
Yeah.
If I worked for him, he'd be cool to hang around with.
I think like also with his death scene specifically, throughout the entire movie, he's been thwarted over and over again. But like, you always feel like he's got a plan, right?
Yeah.
He's like, ooh, a setback, but like plan F.
Next plan.
We're moving on to it. And I think, like we said, when he's falling, he doesn't believe it himself.
Yeah.
Because he's planned for everything. It would have been impossible for him to end up in this situation.
Yeah.
And I think that adds to it. Like, and him actually, dying is crazy.
Yeah.
Although it is kind of crazy to me, they're stealing like Bond notes or whatever. And like thinking back as an adult, John McClane's just like killing these guys.
Yeah.
Like just kind of like a wild concept to me.
Yeah.
It's true.
But yeah, anyways, great first round here.
Yep.
We'll be back with a little bit extra alcohol, and we'll see you in a second here.
Yep.
Hey, great to see you.
We missed you.
Yeah, hope you enjoyed that little break.
Back for round two.
Nick, what do we got here?
Alrighty, continuing our lager journey, we have the Last Leaf by Star Hill, which is a maple lager, which definitely caught our eye like almost immediately.
Yeah.
And as it was being poured in front of us, it looks like a stout. It smells very mapley.
Mm-hmm.
Very excited.
Yeah.
The color is totally different. Obviously, Murphy's Gold had a beautiful gold color. This is like an amber, kind of like a darker red.
Yeah.
I don't even know how well this is showing up on the camera.
I mean, it looks like a red ale a lot. Like
Yeah,
a red
It's
ale.
true.
You know, yeah. And I will say, before with the Murphy's Gold, when we poured it, there was a bit of a head that just kind of disappeared immediately. This has got more of like that classic head, a little more foam. I don't know what happened to yours. It just got a little extra.
Yeah, I'm a little extra.
Yeah.
But yeah.
All right.
But I will say the sweetness that you smell in the air is very different than a normal lager.
For sure.
Yeah.
You
Well,
can. The maple is prominent.
Cheers.
Cheers. Oh.
Oh, you made a weird face.
I didn't taste it at first, and then it came like later.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so you taste the lager first. It's a really dark lager.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then you get this pancake maple syrup taste at the end, right?
Yeah. No. Yeah.
And because with the malt, it gives you the breadiness also.
Yeah.
Do we classify this as a breakfast lager? Is that what you're saying?
I drink it.
Yeah. I mean, because of the maltiness and the grain and the maple syrup, it just tastes like pancakes and maple syrup.
It's pretty good. I'm
It
not
is
gonna lie.
good.
That's pretty solid.
I don't even know.
How
what
are
to-
you feeling?
I don't know what to make of it. I feel very on the fence about it. I don't know. I don't think I love this one. I think Murphy's is still kind of. I think I like that one a little bit better. But this is definitely weird, and I like that it's so unique and
Yeah.
strange.
I definitely am more into like. I mean, I really like dark beers,
Yeah.
but if it's not dark, then I want it to be really unique. And if it's unique and dark,
You're like, a ding 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 winner.
because like
winner.
we had one that was like a cherry chocolate ale one time that was
Yeah.
just fantastic. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, this is good. I like this one.
Yeah. All right. Well, hopefully things that we like. Nick, what's next on your order here?
Of course. So my next death moment, scene, however we're referring it to,
All of the above.
it is from the Walking Dead series, specifically the Telltale game, season 1, the very first one that was released. So
The game, not the series.
yeah.
The Telltale is the game.
Is the game.
studio.
Okay, yeah.
I will say this is 2 for 2 on things that Dad and I have not seen or played.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So I'm you don't know where it's going.
exactly.
So that's where it's from. Spoilers. The victim, however, the focus is the main character, and his name is Lee. And The Walking Dead is a zombie game. Clear, and basically throughout it, you're making choices. You're deciding whether to shoot someone, whether to take someone's life, whether to spare them and see if you might be able to tend to their wound if it is and isn't a zombie one. And throughout the game, you have a companion who you picked up, and it's a little girl named Clementine, and she was basically her parents disappeared, and you're just taking care of her, sort of Last of Us.
Right. That's what I was
vibes.
thinking.
Definitely the same dynamic.
Mhm.
Lee is a very knowledgeable person, kind of rough around the edges because the game starts with him in the back of a police car,
Oh.
Of course.
handcuffed, and you can be a kind of a jerk with these dialogue options to the officer. But throughout the game, you're basically together. You're inseparable. You're saving her and she's saving you around a lot of corners, and you're spending a lot of time with them. So obviously, there can't be happy endings in these kinds of games. And basically, in the last final moments, you're with Clementine. You've been separated from your main group, and you're doing your stuff. You're doing all that good stuff, and Lee gets bit. And he knows this. And he's like, I can't. I'm not going to make it. Everyone we've seen doesn't make it.
Yeah.
I know what needs to be done. So he handcuffs himself to a radiator. And he's like, Clementine, you got to you got two options.
Dang.
And you basically, because it's a choice matter game,
Yeah.
you tell her which one to take.
Whoa. Like either kill him or like leave, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I chose to tell her to kill me. And I feel like that one made the most sense.
Yeah.
And also was super impactful.
Traumatized her.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, it's a very tough scene, and you're basically walking her through being like, you're gonna be good, you're gonna be safe, like everything you've learned from me, don't forget it, and all this stuff.
God.
And then she's like, I don't want to do it. Just you're gonna be safe, right? And you're basically like, just close your eyes.
Oh my God.
And it ends with her pulling the trigger.
Oh. Well, I can't play that. The Last of Us, the first one, like killed me. And I know what happens in the second one, and so I refuse to play the second
Super
one.
valid. Super valid.
And that just sounds like oh my God.
But it when we were talking about the ideas, I'm like, I immediately thought of Lee.
Yeah.
Like that scene is just so heavy, impactful. The writing is so good because it's like prime Telltale.
Yeah. Oh,
You know,
my God.
we have never talked about it here, but it's really something to bring out is that part of what makes games progress and get better is that the writing for a lot of these games has just been incredible.
Yeah.
Because when we watch God of War,
Yeah.
a playthrough on that, and that does
It's like a family evening activity
Yeah.
to watch some people play God of War Ragnarok.
but that dialogue for both parts
Oh yeah.
was just remarkable. Now the actors were incredible also,
Yeah.
but
Boy.
but it's remarkable because 20 years ago it was all about just trying to get the characters to move and shoot each other.
Yeah.
It's true.
The story was
Which
not
is
as
so
impactful.
sad.
Yeah, there wasn't really an impactful story.
I feel like there were. I just don't know of any.
It's
Yeah.
like harder to find.
Yeah.
Because like you said, it wasn't the priority.
How good was the Spyro story? I don't remember it.
It wasn't.
Someone was capturing the dragon.
Mr. Moneybags.
But Uncharted, I thought had a pretty good story.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And so I think that was kind of where I leaned toward when I watched these things, because when he was younger, me and Nick would just watch Alexander play these
Yeah.
Uncharted
True, yeah,
games. But yeah, so it's remarkable the storytelling now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's awesome. I have a video game one, but I really wanted to save that one for last, so I will save it
Yeah,
for
do that.
last.
Yeah.
It's a bit tough to follow up that because I haven't even played the game, let alone like seen gameplay of it, and like you just described that kills me.
heart-wrenching.
Oh my God.
Absolutely brutal.
My next one is from an anime. It is a show called Akame ga Kill. If you know this show, you probably know. Actually, you probably don't. You're like, what is he referencing?
Which one?
Yeah, if you're unfamiliar with Akame ga Kill,
Spoilers.
it's a rough one. Lots of spoilers. It's kind of one of those shows where everyone's going down. You just don't know how or when. Yeah. But I think it was one of those first shows that kind of opened me to the idea that we're not afraid to like take the protagonist's armor off. I think a lot in anime, like I think of Luffy and I'm like, he's never gonna die. I think of
True.
like Dragon Ball and I'm like, dude, they're gonna kill Goku and he's just gonna like res. Like he's just coming back.
Yeah.
Like there's not really a lot of anime where you're like, oh, this character that I've been watching and like forming a bond with, he'll be fine. Like I'm not worried for his safety. The bad guy seems super bad. Oh no, he like might get him, and then the main character stands up and with the power of friendship, they take down the bad guy.
Someone's monologuing. Ooh.
Yeah, exactly. And I know there is an argument to be made to say that Akame is the main character. The show is named after her, after all. But I feel like for a majority of the show, you are following Tatsumi, And I think in my mind, at least when I watched it, Tatsumi was the main character. And to see Tatsumi die, which of course is like an epic battle. He's got like they all have like special weapons, and his weapon is like a spear that turns into like a mech suit that he's like fighting another giant mech suit in. And like it seems like he's victorious and he's beaten this other massive overwhelming force, and then the mech that this big giant robot that he's fought against is falling towards people in this city that are like getting the wounded from like the aftermath of this big battle, who are like collecting the wounded and the injured in this area, in like this town square area. And Tatsumi sees that and he goes, I can't let this happen. And so he like pushes himself to catch this robot and kind of like stop its path from hitting these people. And the show does a good job of kind of like glorifying his death in a way where it's got these beautiful frames of him just like sitting there like half alive holding this giant robot from hitting these people. And for me, I was like, they wouldn't, right? Like the whole time I'm like, he's bleeding out of every orifice possible, but like he wouldn't die, right?
A lot of other people have died, but
but
wouldn't.
not him. And then you have like Akame walk up and he's like, I'm sorry, I can't keep my promise, and dies. And you're like, what? You're like, what? And it doesn't even like really hit you until they have like a little like time skip a little bit with Akame holding Tatsumi, and the bad guy walks up and goes, Tatsumi's dead? Like, this can't be right. And I'm like, even the bad guy thinks it. And like for me, that's like that moment where I'm like, they would do that.
They full sent it.
Yeah,
He's not coming back.
He's not coming back. There's no Dragon Balls to res him. And that was like the first time I was like, oh my god, you can kill the main character and it can be a really cool moment that also leaves the audience member going, what? Why would you do that?
But then there's no season 2.
Well, I mean,
okay, so
technically
it's called Akame ga Kill because she's one of the few survivors.
Yeah.
And there is a continuation.
Oh, there is.
But I mean, it's anime, so there's not a season 2.
Yeah. Hard to get one of those.
So just so you get some context around this, they joke about anime. So they watch anime on a regular basis, and then they select the anime that they think my wife and I are ready to see.
Yeah, we look for family friendly anime, a limited, fan service,
Not too much. Stuff that we'd feel okay watching with them.
We don't want it to be super awkward.
Yeah.
We have definitely progressed into more.
Yeah, we've gotten a bit more bold with our choices.
Yeah, I think so.
Just because like we really like some, and
Yeah.
we're like, you should watch this.
I made the mistake of starting y'all on Delicious in Dungeon, and I heard it gets a little bit more risque, a little deeper into the anime.
Oh, we like it. It's to us, it's fun to watch.
Yes,
They haven't gotten that far.
They haven't got that far.
Yeah, we're only in episode 100 or something.
No, we're only on episode 5 for Delicious in Dungeon.
Anyways, all right. So, I am going to pick one that is more of a sentimental one. So we talked about when we talk about our favorite movies that there's a genre that I love, which is the military movies.
Mm.
I do like those, but more specifically, my dad was a huge John Wayne fan. And so I grew up watching all the John Wayne movies. And as he got later in his career, he got cancer, and it was inevitable that he saw his death, his real life death, coming to him. So he made some movies at the end of his life and at the end of his acting career, in which he died. So he died in very few films throughout his career, but near the end, he died in a couple of movies that were really him kind of saying goodbye to his fans. So one of them was The Shootist, which had Ron Howard in it, in which he's a gunslinger that gets cancer and dies. And
wow, he's like really kind of like
embodying it.
So and all these actors are ones that had acted. Jimmy Stewart was in it. Ron Howard was in it as the newcomer. Eli Wallach was in it. It was a bunch of. But then there was another movie that had a bunch of unknowns in it, and a lot of these younger guys in the movie end up going on to do further careers along with his sons who were in it. And that was a movie called The Cowboys. And basically, he's a rancher, has cattle. He's trying to drive it to market. These guys show up to help him out with cattle hands, and they're mean, and he just doesn't like them. And so he says, I'm not going to hire you. And these guys are like, you have to hire us. There's nobody else available to drive these cattle. And he goes, no, I'll find someone. So he gets I think it's 12 or 14 young boys, and they're like 12, 14 years old. And he takes them on this cattle drive. And so it's about them growing up and taking on this responsibility, doing this cattle drive. And they're about to get to where they're going to cash in the cattle. And these guys have been following him that he didn't hire the whole time. Well, they came in, they snuck in, they got the kids. So he came back from being on the cattle, and they're like, old man, you should have hired us from the beginning. And then they shot him. And so John Wayne died, and these kids, and they took the cattle. So these kids are left with nothing but a dead John Wayne. And so they bury him, and they go, what are we going to do now? And the youngest kid goes, well, we can just go home, I guess. And the guy's like, no, he didn't bring us this far for us to go home. Let's go get our cattle. And it's about them growing up, getting the cattle back and taking it into the town.
And becoming Ronin, basically.
Becoming Ronin.
Our shogun is passed.
Yeah.
We must avenge his death.
It is that kind of theme. Look, it worked.
Yeah.
And it's repeated. We see it in Westerns. We see it in sci-fi. We see that kind of theme all the time going over and over again. And I think that theme is always a great theme.
Yeah.
And when you add on to it that it's a movie that, it's near John Wayne's end of his career.
Yeah, true.
And it also represents my dad because he loved John Wayne movies. And he like I said, he died in very few movies. And so near the end when he died in these two movies, it was really kind of a bittersweetness to it because he realized what was going on.
It adds him it makes him more special.
Yeah. There's a lot of opinions about him and whatever, but I know that my dad just really liked him as a character.
Yeah. I mean, he's like the American cowboy.
He is the American cowboy.
Yeah, he is the American cowboy. Red or blue shirt. That's what that's what everyone knows, and a little handkerchief around his neck.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really interesting the connecting the art to your life and kind of exploring more into that, especially when you realize that your mortality is around the corner, and then also, like you said, kind of playing with the fact of passing the torch artistically onto possibly the next generation of actors, and seeing a generation that probably grew up watching your stuff and being like, what's next for me after this legend is gone?
Yep.
Well,
that was sad.
Yeah, we're gonna take a quick break.
It is about death.
So we're gonna have the vibes are gonna be a little bit lower.
Yeah,
just because we're talking about death.
Yeah. But we'll be back. We'll get another drink, and we'll see you soon.
Right.
Hey, welcome back. We are here with our third and final drink. I think that's what you're doing.
Yep,
with your
round three. Wait, we got to do the European one.
Yeah. We're at round 3. Here we go. Nick, what are we drinking here? This has a very different look and smell than the others.
I highly doubt you'd be able to see it on the camera. But this is the Hey Girl Hey, which is a rosé lager, and it was told to us that it was soaked, brewed, aged, kept,
distilled. I don't know.
in a rosé cask.
The rosé barrels. Yep.
Yeah.
And as we were pouring it, it had a pink hue. It's a little less noticeable now. We're not golden, but we're not as dark as the previous one. This is This is honestly more of like an amber color.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's got the smell is, as I was pouring it, you got a kind of a rosé sweetness coming off of it.
Mm.
So I'm not sure how much of the grape is going to come through. So we'll see how
I
it
mean,
goes.
we'll find out.
Yep. All right.
Without further ado, cheers.
Cheers.
Whoa. Okay.
Okay, this is what I'll say about it. After tasting that very heavy and dark maple, I think this comes off as a little bit light.
I agree. No, I do. I think it's light. I think I don't really know where to place the taste.
It tastes like a rosé.
It does. It has a rosé kind of taste to it. Then you get the maltiness at the end of it, or the hops at the end of it.
It's very odd.
It is very odd. It's I would like a stronger flavor.
Interesting.
Maybe we did the drinks out of order.
I think we did. I think that this would probably be better as the first one or second one, and the maple should be last because that's definitely the strongest one.
I think we had no way of knowing.
We had no way of knowing. Yeah, we had no way of knowing. But yeah,
Yeah. Well, I mean, we could have. There was definitely a debate on whether or not we keep the sanctity of trying these drinks before we brought them into the studio or leaving it as a mystery. And I love that it's a mystery.
I think
because
either
we
way,
don't-
I like it.
Yeah.
I feel like our reactions to the creamsicle were very honest.
Yeah.
And being like, oh
So
my
true.
God, this
yeah,
is,
yeah. 2 weeks ago.
yeah.
I think it's more fun going in blind.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
I agree. But I think this is good. I think you're right. This is definitely lighter, especially coming off of the maple one, which was definitely darker,
Much heavier.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is fun. I like this.
Yeah. Once again, just think about this. It's ice cold. You're having a fish dish with some vegetables that are grilled. It would just go right with that.
Right. I mean, we already had dinner, but like I want to eat
Settle the
again.
All right. Kick us off
off.
for
Yeah.
part 3, our third and first placement. We didn't really mention it, but I'm pretty sure we're going in order 3 to 1, sort of.
I think we're all kind of going in
keeping that
order.
pattern.
Yeah. I will kick us off. Like I promised before in the last section, this will be a video game one. So spoilers. This is from the video game Infamous 2. I think a very decisive, definitive game in my young life.
Another one that we watched you play.
Yes,
True.
yes. I think what made Infamous really interesting was it was in that time period where I think like open world games were not as oversaturated as they are right now. And it also came with a moral system, sort of.
The alignment
Yeah,
scale.
it's like an alignment scale of if you do more like good aligned activities, your powers look more like this, and if you do like more bad, quote unquote bad aligned activities, your powers look like this instead. And each of the like alignment side basically had like a character or like a champion that was like trying to urge you in one direction or the other. But I think what was really interesting is by the end of the game, these characters had essentially switched. So like originally your bad choices or like bad powers were coming from Nyx, and like your good choices were coming from Quo. And like near the end, they kind of switch alignments, for various reasons. And like Nyx is kind of arguing for you to do the right thing, and Quo is kind of arguing for you to do the wrong thing.
But both of them are coming from like
The same moral stance, I think.
Sort of,
kind of.
Yeah.
I think the big moral like question is kind of something similar that we have in like things like X-Men, where it's like, where do people with powers fit in the world?
Right.
And Infamous kind of goes further than that and says like there is a plague that these people with powers, these conduits, aren't affected by. And so it really kind of gives you that big choice of like, do we align with the beast, which is like killing potentially millions of people, or do we like basically eradicate all of these like super powered people using this device. So either way, it's like the trolley problem, except like it's a bunch of people on the tracks.
Yeah, and like everyone is a part of it, including yourself.
Yeah, exactly. And going down the evil route, I think I actually recently saw a comment about this on YouTube where like the hardest boss in video game history is Zeke from Infamous 2. Your like best friend, you play as Cole McGrath. Your best friend is this guy Zeke, who does not have powers. He's just a regular dude. He's like your guy in the chair. You know, like everyone has to have some sort of guy in the chair, some sort of smart sciencey guy who's gonna help you. I think Zeke kind of like bent some of those classic tropes by kind of having more of a southern drawl and kind of being like, oh hell, you know, like
Yeah, the 3 Bs.
Yeah. And at the end, if you choose the evil choice, Nyx and Zeke will team up against you to try to stop you from making the choice of killing almost everyone who doesn't have powers. And like basically the final boss fight is you fighting against Nyx, and you kill her. Like the game does not shy away from it. You kill her.
Yeah.
It's kind of brutal. But immediately after that, Zeke kind of takes this device and is like, you know, I gotta try at least. And he knows he has no conceivable world where he can actually stand up to you. You are like end game Cole. You have like superpowers. He is a normal dude with a revolver, with a 6-shooter. And it kills me. Oh my God. The way they did it too is like Zeke has his gun. He takes one shot at you. You shoot electricity at him. And it's not even a fight. It's like Zeke,
it's over.
Yeah, like Zeke is just trying to like get up from being electrocuted the first time. And every time he like raises the gun, the game is like, R1, kill him, hit him again, and like you just hit him again, and he goes down again, and he's like struggling to stand back up, hit him again, he's struggling to stand back up, hit him one last time, and he's done. It kills me. Oh my God, just thinking about it is so rough. It made me feel like I made the worst choice in video game history to take the evil route. Of course, this was after I've already completed the game on the good route. But it's like, why would anyone do this? But again, it was so emotional, so impactful. And oh my God, yeah, the writing for that, whoever chose that, so it was a great choice.
Yeah, I think that's one of the characters, or the dynamics are so important in that moment.
Yes.
Right? It's like he's been with you the entire,
God, yeah.
You know, we didn't play the first game, but he was there with like day one on Infamous 2.
Yep.
He's there, he's supporting you, he's giving you cool weapons. He's like infiltrating the resistance, you know, or the militia is what they're called.
Yep.
He's doing so much for you. He's like, I'm getting shot at, you know, he's just a random guy. And he's basically like all in on supporting you. Even if you're like making like not the best choices from his point of view, he's like, don't worry, Cole, I got you. Yeah. You know, and there's like a back and forth quote that they say, which is he said Zeke says half as long and Cole says twice as bright.
Yep.
And like I don't know, Zeke has so many good quotes because he's like I don't call you brother because it sounds good.
Yo.
You know, and he's like, yeah, that's a death scene that's just like heart wrenching.
Oh my God,
because it's so brutal and so emotional because you're the one having to do it. You know,
I think it's made worse because immediately after that, the Beast goes, "I can't do this anymore, Cole." And you're like, bro, what did I just do that for nothing?
The evil ending is just a roller coaster.
They did a great job with that. You felt like you made the wrong choice.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, I'm next.
Yeah, do it.
Okay, so going back to what I said in the second round is that I really love military movies, and there's a connection that I have from my dad being in the military, me being in the military. So as soon as we said this was the character I thought about.
Yeah.
So the movie is Saving Private Ryan. A lot of people die in that movie.
Which also, not to take away from you for a second, but we just found out today, I found out today that half our family has not seen it. You and I are the only people who have actually seen this movie.
When I was working, the person I was working with was in the Air Force, and his wife wanted he did not want to go to it. So me and this guy went there. And the scene that I'm going to tell you, both of us were crying.
I believe it.
Yeah.
Because the very first scene, the D-Day scene, we were hearing the bullets. We were like, that sounds real. That's what it's really like. And in the end, or near the end.
To be fair, you're not old enough to have been at D-Day.
It wasn't in World War II, but we had heard gunfire because of other things we'd done. If you've probably seen it, the premise is that this platoon has gone through landing in Italy, landing in North Africa, and has just survived D-Day. So this platoon has the mission of getting the fourth brother, because the three other brothers have died on the same day. So the movie kind of opens up with the mom getting these 3 letters of three of her sons dying. And the fourth son is with the airborne units that went in behind the line and got dropped in D-Day. So they have no idea whether the fourth son is alive or not. So this platoon is to go with it. And Tom Hanks, once again, plays a magnificent role. He's the lieutenant that's in charge of the platoon. And as they're going to find this guy, the platoon starts dying one by one.
Yup.
All right. And then they get to the town where they are, and they're like, look, we've come to get you. We're taking you away. And Matt Damon is the fourth brother, goes, I can't leave my brothers. These are my brothers here. And it's an airborne that's undergunned because they got dropped in and they're protecting this town or whatever. So Germans do an attack on them. And they're fighting, and the rest of the platoon is getting wiped out one by one as they go to it. And really, it's the last person of the platoon is Tom Hanks. And he's been mortally shot. And he's sitting there leaning against a wall. And this tank is coming toward him. So he pulls out his .45 and starts shooting at this Tiger tank. And you're like, that's crazy. And all of a sudden, the Tiger tank blows up. And then you see this fighter go overhead. And so the reinforcements came up too. So Matt Damon runs over to him and goes, "Are you okay?" And he only thing that Tom Hanks says is, "Make this worth it." And then Matt Damon's face morphs to where he's an old man, and he's sitting in France. He's standing in France, looking at the headstone for the lieutenant, and he turns to his wife, his kids, his grandkids, and said, "Did I live a good life?" And I'm telling you, me and this guy next to me, because when you join the military, you do it because you have this sense of duty about it, that you know that this is always a possibility.
Yep.
And that the reason you're doing this so that the people back home are going to live that life that they want to live. And so for me, this was beyond impactful because it touched me personally and what my dad had done and what I had done. And so there wasn't going to be another death scene that had more impact than that one.
Right.
And and like I said before, is when I look at these movies, there's always a part of it that's true, which is just, it makes it more impactful for me.
Yeah.
So once again, I'm bringing this down with it.
Yeah.
No,
The
I
energy is, as expected.
Yeah.
But that's probably my top death scene that I've ever seen.
I think going into this, we kind of knew that it would be a bit of a heavier episode because I think while we can talk about like cool anime death scenes or like characters dying, at the end of the day, art reflects reality, and it is I think, almost impossible to talk about character death scenes without talking about our own mortality and our own connections and like our own reflections that we see in media like this. And obviously, I don't see myself as a person with electric superpowers who's like fighting on the rooftop. But in a way, I think all of these have some sort of reflection and some sort of like talk about our mortality. I think war movies are a lot more of like a clear kind of distinction where we can really see our own mortality, and whether it's in like our troops who are going out there and fighting, or like us at home seeing those people die and getting those letters back.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it has to be a person, because one of the other death scenes I thought about was the Terminator at the end of the movie getting destroyed. Okay. Now,
Yeah.
it's just a robot dying.
Yeah.
But why is that impactful? Because you built a connection to it. It doesn't have to be a human connection. It's just that connection.
So my first one was a boat, man. I get it.
Very true. Very true.
You don't gotta pitch it to me. I know, man. I know it doesn't have to be a person, man.
Exactly. You're right.
I think a couple of my runner-ups were deaths that the media tells you in the beginning, and you have the entire form of media. Both of them that I was thinking of were anime. You have the entire 12, 24 episodes to reckon with that death, because the anime goes, hey, they're not making it. And I'm telling you that that's what's going to happen. And it's not unexpected, and it still hits like a drug.
All right, I'm done. Your turn.
Okay.
Yeah, finish this off.
I will say for my last one, it's a different tonal shift.
Okay.
I didn't choose one.
A clown die.
I didn't choose one where I was like, man, I'm broken up, or like I wasn't crying for these. The other two I was like emotionally like, whoo.
Yeah.
This death scene is just so impactful and crazy. So this one is from an anime called Code Geass. This is a big one. This is a really big one. If you haven't seen it, just like stop listening. Except for these two who are now in my clutches. So,
just so you know, I've never seen it.
Yeah.
I've never seen it.
The death that I'm going to be talking about is the death of Lelouch v. Britannia, the main character of the show. 48 episodes, 16 hours of your life. Incredible time spent. So, rough, overview of the show. We are in an alternative timeline of the world. Great Britain is now the like royal Britannian Empire, and they basically have conquered the world. And they just have districts of the world labeled.
Nice.
And it takes place in Japan, which is called like District 11 or something. It's a very Hunger Games.
I was about to say Hunger Games.
And it's about this guy Lelouch v. Britannia, who's from the bloodline of it. Obviously, since they're keeping the sort of royal whatever theme, it's like it's full like bloodline,
and they all have hemophilia.
And basically, he starts off as like a very arrogant, charismatic genius, but is powerless. Right? He's like, there's no way to fight back, and there's like a resistance around, but like it's not doing too much. It's like a little bit in the future. There's like some mechs and like some future technology, but nothing like really crazy. But then one day he, one way or another, finds himself in front of this character, and she says, "Hey, make a deal with me, and I'll give you powers." And this is where the whole Geass comes from. It's basically this alien power that is different for every single person that they make a deal with.
Are they like alien devils? Is that what it is?
Sort of, kind of.
Whoa.
Yeah, they're very weird, and there's like multiple. They're like everywhere.
This show is like a classic, but I've never heard anyone describe this show.
It's very weird. But he gets the power of control. So if someone looks at him in the eyes, he can give them one order and they have to follow it.
Dude, it's command.
Yeah, basically. So it starts off with he finds himself in front of like a squadron of like soldiers after just acquiring this power. And he's given like the rough rundown of how it works. And he goes, okay, I get it. And they're like, ooh, we have a unknown individual in front of us. We have to kill him. And he goes, look at me. And he uses his power on them and he goes, now kill yourselves.
Oh my god.
And they all go, oh, by your order, my lord, and shoot themselves in the head. And that's the first episode.
Oh.
And basically the whole series is him creating like this uprising to kill his family. For one way or another, he is super against it because him and his sister were thrown out as like perceived as useless. And as he's like building up this giant army, basically lying to everyone, he's going by a different alias. Like no one knows he's part of this family, and he's becoming like the resistance leader of the world, doing crazy stuff, killing a lot of people, a lot of like indiscriminately to a degree where he's like, so long as I get my goals, I will become the worst person you could imagine. And he's doing it, and he keeps saying, I will destroy the world. That is my ultimate goal. And he's basically throwing out his life for it.
Yeah.
And it gets to the very last episode, and he has finally killed like the emperor. And he is doing it from the perspective of, I'm now the usurper, and I'm now in control of the empire. He announces himself. All of these foolish resistance people have followed a Britannia for my own goal to take over the empire, is how he says it.
Oh my god.
And he basically he creates a giant parade, and he has like all of his like resistance leaders like on display, like in front of the world. And he has his like sister like locked up because she's like blind and stuff.
Oh my gosh.
And
Really uplifting.
Yeah, wow.
It's really crazy. And he's like sitting on this giant throne, and he's like, I'm now the king of the world. I'm the emperor. I am the greatest, right? And then all of a sudden, his like alternative persona that he's been using, named Zero, he like wears a mask, right? Shows up, and everyone's like, "Oh my gosh, it's Zero, our hero."
Yeah.
And he runs up, and without any like fighting back, basically, Lush gets stabbed through the heart.
He kills Lelouch. Did he plan this from the start where he like set up this person to be like the good guy, and he would make himself look as like evil as humanly possible, and then be killed or vanquished by this hero?
Basically.
Oh my god.
So he gets stabbed, and he like slides down this giant ramp down to his sister where she's being held, and she's like, you didn't do this on purpose. And he coughs up blood, and he's like, there, I've destroyed the world.
Oh. What? That's crazy. Now that I know the secret, I still kind of want to go back and watch it.
Oh my gosh. Even if you don't know it, I highly recommend it. There's so much stuff that happens.
Oh my
The
gosh.
characters are crazy. Like, there's so much. He's such a stellar character. He's definitely like top 10 anime characters like ever. He's such a force. You know he's a bad guy, but he's doing it all with like, I must rip out my heart in order to do this sort of like mentality. Like he knows.
That's like the Machiavellian way.
Yeah, basically, he's so compelling, and like he especially cares about his sister so much that he does this all to like, he's like, I'm the true evil. Don't pay attention to anyone else in my family now, so that she can live peacefully.
She can live peacefully. Oh my gosh.
No, it's so good. But yeah, that one is like, it's not emotional, like, oh, I'm gonna cry, but it's like all this work.
Yeah.
Like, you've done literally the impossible, and you even planned for your own demise in this very moment. it's like he's orchestrated it since episode 1. As soon as he got these powers, he could foresee the end. Is how it felt.
That's crazy.
It's so impactful, so good.
See, this is why they don't show us all of these anime.
Well, this is a commitment.
It's
48 episodes.
48 episodes. It's
Yeah.
224 seasons. It's you know we'd be sitting down for a minute.
Yeah, we would sit down for a while. And also like finding a good like platform to watch it off of on our TV. Anyways, yeah, wow, that was a great one to end on here. Wow, I'm just kind of like shell shocked here. While I'm processing this, tell me, out of the 3 drinks we had, which one were your favorites? Dad, I'll start with you, and then we'll go to you, Nick.
Yeah.
I like the Hey Girl.
Yep.
To me, it's one of those ones you have with dinner.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
I feel like you mentioned dinner for all of them.
Well, no, yeah.
No, sorry. The maple one, the leaf, that was a breakfast one. Not
That was a
dinner
breakfast
one.
one.
True,
Yeah, that was one
exactly.
you have with pancakes.
You have to
and
pick a
maple
meal.
syrup.
Yeah.
I love dark ales. I love dark beer. So I think I'm going to go with the last leaf as my favorite.
All right.
Yeah. I mean, it was a good one. Not my favorite, but
I get it.
I liked it. It was
Yeah.
definitely different.
It's super unique.
yeah.
Yes.
You know, honestly, I think trying like the novel ones, like the rosé one, super fascinating. Not what
Yeah.
I expected.
Yeah.
And the maple one, kind of what I expected, but still like a fun little treat. But like, I don't think I was especially wowed, like floored by either of them.
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna go with the Murphy's Gold, just because like it's such a clean lager, just fits with so much, and it's like the one I foresee like, oh yeah, I could pick this up at any moment and drink it.
Sometimes I hate how
Oh.
similar we are.
This means you got good taste.
Yeah, for real. I agree. I did like the Hey Girl Hey. I think that one was like definitely nipping at that first place. But again, I think part of it was when we picked them up, it was like we knew that we wanted the Hey Girl Hey. We knew that we wanted the last leaf. We didn't know what we wanted the third one to be. So I had no expectations for the Murphys. And I think you're right. Like I literally just like, I could drink this anytime.
Yeah.
And it goes down easy. It's nice and good. You said burgers and fries, and I was sold.
I mean, it's the perfect cookout kind of
Oh
beer.
my gosh.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
exactly what I was thinking. Like sitting outside, like around a pool or like a campfire, just
Yeah.
having some burgers and dogs.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
I agree.
Or what is it, ravioli over the fire?
What?
Remember when you guys went to the
Oh my
Oh,
gosh.
oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For quick context, Nick and I went to a rock festival that got rained out. But one of the nights we just made like 12 cans of ravioli.
Yeah.
because you guys were wet,
Yeah,
tired.
we were camping out. We had like a little like portable stove. We literally just
Dumped cans.
dumped cans into a pot, and then our neighbors were like, "Hey, is that ravioli?" And we're like, "Yeah, here, come on, get a plate."
It sucks outside. Come on.
yeah.
Yeah, I think. Oh man, they had like lost a bunch of stuff too because of the rain. Like it was like a hurricane. It was like a micro hurricane.
Yeah.
Anyways, thank y'all so much for sticking by.
Thanks for
and
watching till the end.
watching. Yeah, I promise next episode will be a bit more upbeat, happy. And we won't be focusing so much on our own mortality or the mortality of other
We'll
media
always bounce
characters.
back.
Yeah,
Yeah, we'll always- yeah.
exactly.
All right, take it easy, guys.
Bye.
Bye.